Hello everybody, I'm Roxy and this is Rock Me BS. Today I thought I would do a different sort of highlights video because I had a really weird month. I wasn't able to finish many things and I was in a weird mood, so I was constantly switching back and forth. Okay, so let's start with what I did finish, not necessarily in order. I finished volumes 8 and 9 of a series of unfortunate events, the Hostel Hospital as well as the Carnivorous Carnival, and they are really good. The level of psychological development and the character development here is so much that I'm astonished that this is only a middle grade series. By the 7th book, the formula of the caretaker has switched, so I think that's good. It gets darker and darker as the series progresses, so I really recommend this series. I also finished this Modern Poets 1 book. This includes Emily Berry, Anne Carson and Sophie Collins. And the thing is that I was most excited by Anne Carson because I had seen her everywhere, and then I started seeing Emily Berry all over BookTube, but you know what happened with Milk and Honey, so I was kind of hesitant, but I loved Emily Berry's poetry. I also did like Sophie Collins, but she throws a lot of references around, so I think poetry. Anyways, Sophie Collins, you need more references to access her poetry. However, Anne Carson, although I did like a couple of poems, I didn't connect with as profoundly because there are so many poets that I want to read and there are so many things that I loved about Emily Berry and Sophie Collins. I don't see myself picking anything else by Anne Carson in the near future. Anyways, I did love this collection. I love the idea behind the collection. I want to get them all. Yeah, read this. I gave it like 4 out of 5 or something like that. I also read Decoded by Mei Jia. It's told as non-fiction from a really external narrator, and it's about, the first like 100 pages are about a lineage of Chinese mathematicians, and then we focus on just one in the modern era, sort of 1950s or so, who kind of gets lost in decoding secret codes. There's a lot of chess talk and math talk, and it can drag at bits, and a lot of people feel like there's no point, but for me it's the opposite. I think the point is in all these layers of meaning. The narrative though, of course this is translated and you can really tell. I read it in Spanish, this is the Spanish version, but I read a lot of people had the problem in English as well, that it's very straightforward, it's not very lyrical, it reads more as journalism. But the positive was that I was completely immersed in this person, and the interesting part is that we don't really get to hear anything from him. He speaks next to nothing. It was really interesting. It's not for everyone, and the math part, oh my god, tend to drag a lot. Not a thriller. Like, it's marketed as a thriller and I don't know why, because it's not, but there's a lot of like math and the meaning of life and the universe just from something that's inorganic as math and seeing it as something organic. I gave this 3 out of 5. I did enjoy it. Not perfect, but worth checking out if it sounds interesting. Then I didn't finish a thing. Just going to name books and tell you like what I'm reading. So this is De Profundis, The Ballad of Reading Gaol and Other Writings by Oscar Wilde. I have read The Soul of the Man Under Socialism, which is hilarious and very interesting. De Profundis, which is the letter that Oscar Wilde writes to his lover while he's in prison, while Wilde is in prison. That boy ruined him, both emotionally, artistically and financially, and he was the one who sort of pressured his father, who was the one who sued. That's the reason he ended up in jail. So while he was there, he didn't contact him once, and all the news that Wilde got was just that like Laura Alford wanted to publish a book of poems and dedicate them to him, and he wanted to publish a biography and his letters, and it was horrible. It's just horrible. And so Oscar Wilde, near the end of his stay in prison, decides to write Bosie a letter, and that's what he does. And it's heartbreaking. I cried several times. It's beautiful. Read it. Also read the poem he composed while he was there, the Ballad of Reading Gaol, which is the name of the prison he was in, and it's beautiful, about a man who commits suicide. Then I'm missing The Critic as an Artist and The Decay of Lying, so I hope to get to these in May. Continuing on with Oscar Wilde, who I don't know if I've mentioned, he's my favorite author or one of my favorite authors. Oscar Wilde by Richard Ellman. So this is a biography on him. It's very complete, but it's also very dry. I feel like Oscar Wilde is such a character. You could have done a really interesting, wacky biography. You really need patience and a right mood to read this. However, it's still very informative, and it's also very comprehensive in the sense that it mentions like his influences at Oxford regarding aesthetic movements and morals, and that's very interesting, but the way it's told, it's really dry. Oscar Wilde is fascinating, but the biography not that much. I still enjoy it because it's Wilde, but I feel like if it was any other writer, I would have definitely DNF'd it long ago. Fictions by Jorge Luis Borges. He's a very famous, one of the most important Latin American writers of all time. And I've read a lot of his critical essays, but none of it's fiction. So I'm definitely excited to tell you how this turns out. I've only read the first story, and although I'm impressed with his imaginative capacity, I'm not as impressed with the story itself, and it's been kind of let down, but I'm going to persevere because it's only one story, and then I've heard like the rest are just like more and bigger and better, so I'm just waiting for that like punch. Okay, finally 3 books from the library. As a choice of English romantic poetry by Stephen Spender. I really recommend this book if you want to start with romantic poetry. It's a really wide selection with a really comprehensive introduction. A little heavy on Wordsworth, which I understand because he's like the father of romanticism, so that's okay. But I don't know, I just don't like Wordsworth as much as I like Coleridge or Byron. Anyways, if you like romantic poetry or you want to get into romantic poetry, this is a place to start. It's also very short, so I think that is good for an introduction. I also got Existentialism from Dostoevsky to Sartre by Walter Kaufmann. I've been recommended this book a lot because it's supposed to be one of like the most comprehensive existentialist texts. And yeah, I'm very excited. And also another book from the library I hope to get to is The Idea of the Postmodern, A History by Hans Bertens. So this is a really like academic book, but for newbies. It actually says it's good for bemused students, and I really liked it. So it's like postmodernism or any philosophical movement nowadays, especially if you don't study philosophy like me. It's really hard to get because there's so much information and there are so many different ways to sort of tackle it, that these sort of books really speak to me because they provide just the right amount of information and in the right way, so you get hooked, but also you feel like you learned something, like it wasn't a waste of time. April was a really weird month for me, and so that's why like my reading reflects this, I feel. So that's it. I still have a lot of videos to edit, and I will get to that eventually, I promise. See you next time, bye! Oh, remember all my social media videos here, and yeah. After that, okay, why do people honk in traffic? It's not going to move, oh my god. Anyways, I've been driving for almost a year now. I haven't honked once, I think, romanticism, but gordo. Okay, Momo. My dog is just wreaking havoc.